For the second time in one calendar year, the Brooklyn Nets have flipped their roster, sending James Harden to Philadelphia in return for Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, 2 first-round picks, and the headliner, Ben Simmons. One of the most polarizing players in the league, now on one of the most polarizing teams in the association. Today, I'll be breaking down what Simmons provides for the latest episode of Scouting New Nets. But first, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so below. Now let's get it. As the runner-up Defensive Player of the Year last season, Simmons is a legit 1-5 defender. He's unique for his size. Even at 6'10", he guarded pick-and-roll ball handlers for 42% of his defensive possessions, blending a 7-foot wingspan with elite athleticism, great balance, and the requisite strength to bother ball handlers and cut off their driving lanes. He sets himself up nicely by being such a terrific screen navigator, here sticking his left foot above Boban's left foot to get over the screen and take away Luka's driving lane, only to go under the rescreen when Luka crosses over and contest the jumper. Simmons is just humongous to be this skillful, fluid, and malleable as a point of attack defender. I mean, he makes 6'7" Luka Doncic look like a normal person out there. His size allows him to take on jumbo-sized playmakers as well. He does a nice job handling Giannis's physicality here and forcing him into the jumper. In fact, Simmons is so versatile, he even thrived as a drop defender while taking on the Giannis assignment, which will be huge for Brooklyn's blueprint to beating Milwaukee, given that the Nets will likely downsize and put Simmons at the 5 when the Bucks put Giannis at the 5. One thing I love about Ben Simmons is how aware and attuned he is at using his physical gifts to his advantage. When he guards superstars, he gives them a little more airspace than the average defender while they dribble, likely to avoid fouling, knowing that his length and elite speed can take care of the rest. That said, smaller guards can get by him. There's just some ground that Simmons can't always make up, and he'll occasionally show frustration by jogging back into the play if his man is beating him repeatedly. Off the ball, he is a demon in the passing lanes, and he'll blow up dribble handoffs regularly. If he does manage to get beat off the ball, he's so quick at turning corners that recovery is never out of the question, and he'll flash his quick hands from there. Maybe most crucial of all is that Ben Simmons gives the Nets a reliable secondary defender outside of just Kevin Durant. Here, he rotates over as the low man and rushes Drew Holiday into this shot. Perks of being 6'10" with a 7-foot wingspan. And here, he fulfills his low man duties by swatting away Boban Marjanovic, even with his man Luka Doncic lifting up to the wing to make for a tougher recovery. I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that Ben Simmons is the best defender of the Brooklyn era, capable of doing a little bit of everything on that end. He's going to make a massive difference. Offensively, Ben Simmons is... what is Ben Simmons on offense? Well, a blur is a great place to start. And while he's not necessarily the most efficient transition player, at least from a team production standpoint, only 9 players created more transition opportunities last season, and he scored pretty efficiently on those opportunities. The dude has always been down to push the pace, and he'll use that speed to set up dribble handoffs with the advantage in semi-transition. And even if he isn't the one handling the ball, he's always a candidate to seal smaller defenders stuck in bad cross matches on the break. Simmons has long been an elite rim finisher in spite of some small flaws. If he can get to his right, it's basically over, and you can absolutely see that elite rim finishing coming in handy if he's used in the short roll as a screener in Brooklyn. He's got every move down, a trademark spin move or a Euro step when defenses overplay for that spin move. At the end of the day, his goal is almost always to get to his right hand after these moves. And again, because he likes to finish with his right hand so much, he prefers to face up on the left side of the floor just so he can finish with this gorgeous sweeping right-handed hook. The only time he gets in trouble at the rim is when he can't get to that right hand. It forces him to use his left, which is not something he's super comfortable with. Here, he's got the left-handed layup sitting right there for the taking after the body bump, but he doesn't take it. And I do worry that good defenses will key in on his refusal to use both hands, like Pat Connaughton does here by taking away the middle of the floor only for Simmons to pass out of the advantage. Now, let's talk about Ben's post-up game, because giving him a cross screen like Furkan Korkmaz does here to get him prime positioning for the blow-by is a great way to keep Simmons involved off the ball. Ben is certainly not afraid of absolutely mashing smaller dudes stuck in mismatches, and he's got a reliable reliable turnaround hook game if his physicality doesn't immediately create the advantage in the post. Using him in the post is a great way to feature his best offensive trait, his passing, and it's something I hope the Nets tap into with great frequency. The second he feels Bogdanović shift over, he hits Seth Curry in the corner with this gorgeous pass. And it's easy to picture Kevin Durant in Tobias Harris's shoes here, relocating while Ben posts up. One thing I'd like to see the Nets do is implement some Golden State Warriors sets by running split cuts while Ben Simmons posts up. Split cuts, by the way, are when two perimeter players come together and then split apart, while a third player makes the read from the block. In this play, Steph just slips the screen and Draymond Green makes the read. You could easily see Ben Simmons make this type of a play. Speaking of the passing, here's a fun fact. Ben Simmons has recorded the most assists ever for a player 6'10" or taller in his first 4 seasons. He's got every pass down, drop-offs to the bigs, passes to pick and poppers when faced with drop coverage. And while I wouldn't necessarily describe him as a tier 1 passer because he struggles to manipulate defenses due to his scoring issues, he's absolutely a tier 2 passer. This is expert eye manipulation to send Drew Holiday dancing. But let's get to the juicy stuff. There is a reason that he grades out as a negative offensive player, and it isn't just because of the jumper or the lack of a left hand at the rim. One thing that kept popping up to me in my research is just how bad his spatial awareness is. If he isn't just standing in the dunker spot, he's kind of just regularly in the way, which is strange for a player entering his 5th season. Here, his poor positioning brings in an extra unnecessary help defender on Tobias Harris's drive. And on this play, he needs to move to the opposite dunker spot instead of clogging up Joel Embiid's lane by standing in a non-threatening position. These are not problems that are just going to magically go away. Even with better spacing, he needs to be more attentive about his positioning. It would help if he could do more than just stand in the dunker spot and poach for offensive rebounds when he isn't running the offense. Setting off-ball screens could be good utilization for Simmons when Brooklyn Stars run pick and roll with another big man. However, Ben just doesn't really have that in his arsenal. He has room for what's known as an exit screen here on Danny Green's man, Terrence Davis, and instead he doesn't even make contact. Here's a better example of him in an exit screen situation, though again, it's not great contact. In my research, I found that his on-ball screening was slightly better, though I still don't always love the amount of contact that he makes on his screens. But on this play, you get an idea of just how dominant he could be as a roller regardless. I would expect his roll man possessions to go up significantly in Brooklyn, though it's imperative he's in the right lineups. Having two non-shooting bigs roll to the rim at the same time is just asking for a crowded paint for the ball handler. If the Nets wanted to use Simmons as a ball handler next to another big, snug pick and rolls or pick and rolls closer to the basket are a great option, given that it's basically impossible to sag off him without being completely underneath the basket. And speaking of when defenders sag off him, because of his lack of a jumper, dribble handoffs are a fantastic counter as it turns disrespectful defense into a spot up 3 against drop coverage. One last fun anecdote before we get into my final concluding thoughts. Ben's always been a terrific rebounder, especially on offense. He's an absolute pro at these tip-out rebounds to shooters thanks to his expert floor mapping, always aware of where his guys are. Seth Curry, Kyrie Irving, Patty Mills, Kevin Durant, and even newcomer Goran Dragic are absolutely going to eat off these second chance looks. Given the circumstances of James Harden forcing out, you can learn more about that with in-depth reporting on my Brooklyn Nets podcast, The Clear Out. The Nets did a hell of a job. Ben Simmons is going to fill every possible hole on defense. Point of attack defense, secondary defense. He'll force deflections. He'll eat up minutes at center. You name it. On offense, I'm probably a little more concerned than the average person about his fit. The jumper and free throw shooting is one thing. We all know about that. And then the finishing with his offhand obviously is a little bit jarring, but he just has too many possessions for my liking where he's completely ineffective. Yes, not sharing the floor with another post-up big will help, but even with better spacing, he still needs to improve this odd tendency where he's either in the way or in a non-threatening position. Using him as a screener where he can either score at the rim with his strong hand or make passes in the short roll should help, but that's also dependent on whether he's sharing the floor with another big. Letting Simmons make plays out of the post is a great start, and all signs point to the Brooklyn Nets leaning toward implementing that. But it'll be interesting to see what else these Nets can work into the fold offensively with Simmons. Overall, I'd describe Ben Simmons as an extremely unfinished player, one that has missed a lot of time, but also one with immense potential. I do expect his counting numbers to go down now as a third option, but we'll see if he reaches his sky-high potential as a Net. But with that, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and go ahead and share this on Twitter and Reddit. If you enjoy my content, give me a follow on Twitter. And as many of you have pointed out, yes, there have been way fewer videos this year. That is because I picked up a new gig doing general NBA content for a website called Basketball News. I've been writing about all 30 teams, specific players, key trends I'm noticing. It's been a really exciting gig, and we have a ton of talented writers at the site. I mentioned it earlier, but do check out my Brooklyn Nets podcast, The Clear Out, brought to you by Blue Wire Podcasts. It's available on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. It's been a great project this year. But that's all I got, folks. Again, make sure to check out my work at all the places mentioned. Give me a follow, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Peace.